What if the only thing separating you from humanity was a memory that never truly belonged to you?
Right, yeah.
In a world where artificial beings obey every command, one replicant begins searching for something no machine should ever desire: a soul.
It's just the ultimate existential labyrinth, really.
Totally.
Because when you strip away the biology, the genetics and the manufactured history, we have to ask a genuinely terrifying question. What is actually left that makes us real?
Welcome to Beyond the Plot, where unforgettable stories come to life. Today we're exploring Denis Villeneuve's Blade Runner 2049.
And we are taking you straight into a future that is, honestly, as breathtaking as it is suffocating.
Yeah, but we aren't just going to look at the scenery on this deep dive.
Yeah,
We are going to completely take apart the machinery of this world. We want to understand how it forces us to redefine what it literally means to be alive.
So we are dropping you into Los Angeles, but it's 30 years after the events of the original story.
Right. The year is 2049.
Yes. And humanity has basically pushed the planet to the absolute brink of ecological collapse.
The Los Angeles is just gone, like completely swallowed whole.
It really is.
It's now this sprawling, sweaty, oxygen-starved metropolis built directly on top of the industrial bones of the old city.
And the skies, they're permanently choked with this thick, dirty snow and heavy smog.
It's so claustrophobic.
Oh, absolutely. And cutting through all that gloom are these colossal, almost seizure-inducing holographic advertisements.
Yeah, just imagine looking up and seeing a towering multi-story projection of a woman.
Right, an AI product named Joy.
Exactly, Joy.
Yeah.
Just moving through the smog like a neon ghost.
And that visual, it isn't just atmospheric, it's a huge representation of the societal isolation going on.
Because people in 2049 don't really connect with each other anymore, do they?
No, they don't. They connect with towering algorithms.
Yeah, it's bleak.
And if you look to the west, there is this monumental cascading seawall stretching for miles.
Which is holding back this angry, risen ocean caused by climate collapse.
Wow. Right, but it isn't just a physical barrier. It's a psychological one.
Like a terrarium.
Yes, humanity is trapped inside this terrarium of its own making and outside the city limits.
Just nothing, right?
Nothing but infinite dead landscapes. Endless stretches of abandoned solar panels, plastic greenhouses, and, well, continent-sized mazes of trash.
And in this bleak, dystopian world, humanity only survives by standing on the backs of a slave class.
The replicants.
Right. Bioengineered humans designed exclusively to obey.
They do the heavy lifting in the colonies off-world, or they just suffer through the miserable jobs left here on a dying Earth.
So the status quo of this society is built on a very fragile hierarchy. I mean, it relies heavily on a philosophical justification.
Oh, heavily. You have the human creators on top, and you have the replicant creations on the bottom.
And the humans justify this enslavement through a pretty simple biological loophole.
Yeah, the idea that humans are born and replicants are made.
Because replicants are manufactured in a lab, so they are legally classified as property.
Exactly. And our guide through this world is Officer K.
A Blade Runner for the LAPD.
Right. And his entire existence is dedicated to hunting down older, rogue models of replicants.
And retiring them.
Yeah, retiring them, which is really just a polite, bureaucratic word for execution.
But what fascinates me about K is how his very existence isolates him from both sides of the coin.
He really does exist in this devastatingly lonely middle ground.
Because K is a newer model replicant, right? Specifically engineered to lack the capacity for rebellion.
Yes. So the humans despise him because he's synthetic. They throw slurs at him, call him a skin job.
But the older rogue replicants hate him just as much.
Because he's a class traitor. He is a weapon wielded by the oppressors against his own kind.
So before we get into the inciting incident of K's journey today, we need to understand the mechanism that keeps him in line.
The baseline test.
Yeah, because when K returns from a violent mission, he doesn't exactly go to therapy.
No, definitely not.
Have you ever tried to read a complex poem while someone shines a strobe light in your eyes and measures your heart rate?
It sounds like a nightmare.
That's essentially what this is. Kay sits in a stark white room, and an interrogator fires these poetic trigger words at him.
Phrases like blood-black nothingness and cells interlinked within cells interlinked.
It's wild. The baseline test is just this brilliant piece of psychological world building.
It really is. It is a highly aggressive cognitive diagnostic tool.
The poetry isn't random at all.
No, it's designed to provoke an emotional response, to stimulate the amygdala.
Because the spanners in the room are measuring his pupil dilation, his microexpressions, his vocal cadence.
And if K reacts to the imagery, if he feels empathy or trauma or existential dread, his neural pathways show a divergence from his baseline programming.
It's literally a stress test for the soul.
Yeah, it is. And if his stress levels fluctuate.
He is considered defective.
Exactly. An off-baseline replicant is a replicant capable of free thought, which means he is immediately retired.
He has to remain perfectly numb just to survive.
And that numbness is put to the test immediately?
Let's look at Kay's current mission. He flies his battered police vehicle, a spinner, out to this desolate protein farm in California.
The ground is so dry and inhospitable there.
There's just no green in sight, just a creaking windmill striking its center pole.
He is there to retire a hulking, older model replicant named Sapper Morton.
And Sapper is a fascinating contradiction, honestly.
He is. He is a combat model, totally engineered for extreme violence.
Yet how do we find him? He's been hiding out for decades, raising nematodes in sludge pools and boiling garlic on a stove.
He is desperately clinging to the few organic, nurturing acts left in this dead world.
It's tragic. And when Kay confronts Sapper in the farmhouse, the violence is just inevitable, and it is wall-shattering.
Sapper uses his massive strength to smash Kay right through the wooden walls.
But Kay is a newer model. He is faster, he's more efficient.
He neutralizes the threat, killing Sapper Morton without a flicker of emotion.
It's just a job.
Right, the retirement of Sapper Morton is routine. But the anomaly Kay discovers outside, well, that changes the trajectory of the entire human race.
At the base of a dead, wire-supported tree, Kay notices this single, delicate yellow flower.
A cowslip.
Yeah. In a world of absolute brown and gray dirt, this tiny pop of yellow is just a screaming impossibility.
And that flower acts as a marker. Kay uses his drone to scan the ground beneath the tree.
And he finds a small, sealed footlocker buried deep among the cracked roots.
So he brings the box back to LAPD headquarters. He and his superior, Lieutenant Joshi, they stand in this sterile morgue as an autopsy machine carefully cleans and unwraps the contents.
And it's a woman's skeleton.
But when the machine scans the pelvic bones, it reveals a detail that shatters their reality.
Scalpel marks.
Specifically, emergency C-section marks.
Wow.
And when they run the DNA from the hair found with the bones, the impossible becomes undeniable.
The bones belong to an older model replicant named Rachel.
A synthetic being.
But the physical evidence tells a biological truth. She was pregnant.
She gave birth.
And Joshi's reaction is just sheer, unadulterated panic.
Oh yeah, she pours herself a drink with a visibly shaking hand.
Because she understands the societal mechanism at play here. Let's look at the economics of this world for a second.
It's entirely dependent on slavery.
Right. Humanity's entire infrastructure relies on the fact that replicants are manufactured products.
Because if the replicant underclass learns they can procreate, they will realize they possess the exact same biological continuity as humanity.
The moral justification for their enslavement vanishes literally overnight.
A manufactured tool is property. But a species that can reproduce independently, that is a civilization waiting to rebel.
Think about it like a software program. If a programmer writes an AI to sort emails, it's a tool.
Right.
But if that AI suddenly starts writing its own code, compiling its own servers, and generating new, independent AI programs without any human input, does it cease to be a tool?
That's the huge question. At what point does the creator lose the right to pull the plug?
Joshi sees this exact dilemma. She sees a war coming. So she gives Kay a horrifying order.
Erase all traces, find the child, kill it, and break the mold.
Break the mold. That order forces Kay into a massive existential corner.
He actually pushes back, politely stating, "I've never retired something born."
And when Joshi asks what the difference is, Kay replies, "To be born is to have a soul."
That one line, "to be born is to have a soul," is the philosophical anchor of this entire deep dive.
It really is. It proves that despite his programming, Kay believes in a spiritual hierarchy.
If you are manufactured, you are an object. If you are born, you possess a soul.
So by his own definition, Kay believes he is soulless.
But the irony is that the very act of contemplating whether or not he has a soul is evidence of a profound internal consciousness.
It totally touches on the concept of philosophical zombies, doesn't it?
Exactly. It's a thought experiment in the philosophy of mind. Imagine a being that looks human, acts human, and bleeds like a human, but has no internal conscious experience.
Just empty inside.
Right. Kay's been told his entire life that he is a philosophical zombie.
But his hesitation to kill a born child proves his internal world is rich and morally complex.
And this internal friction drives Kay to investigate the child.
He dives into the LAPD DNA databanks. And this isn't a simple internet search.
No, he stares into a seizure-inducing avalanche of raw genetic code, millions of letters falling like snow across his screen.
It physically hurts him to process it, but his synthetic mind catches an anomaly that a human detective would have totally missed.
He finds 2 children, born on the exact same date, with perfectly identical DNA.
One boy, one girl.
And biologically, that is impossible unless they are identical twins, but identical twins are always the same sex.
So the only explanation is that someone manipulated the records.
The data shows the girl died of a genetic abnormality, Galatian syndrome, at an orphanage.
And the boy?
He simply vanished. A ghost in the system.
Let's talk about Galatian syndrome for a second. In the context of this world, it basically functions as a genetic deterioration in the telomeres.
Right, which often leads to a severely compromised immune system.
But Kay suspects this was just a convenient cover story written into the code to hide the girl's survival.
Or to mask the boy's disappearance. They swapped the children in the records to hide the miracle child.
So, to find the boy, Kay flies to the last known location, the orphanage.
The visual transition here is staggering.
Yeah.
He flies out to the San Diego coastline.
But it is no longer a city. It is a continent-sized landfill.
Massive aerial trackers are just dumping fresh garbage onto calcified mountains of old trash.
And swarming over these trash mesas are scavengers, an entire underclass of humans living off the refuse of Los Angeles.
Kay lands at the orphanage, which is this rusted, abandoned tanker ship retrofitted into a brutal sweatshop for children.
It's so dark, he walks through these cavernous halls, and suddenly, something terrifying happens to his programming.
He experiences a severe shock of recognition.
The environment matches a memory he has.
A memory he always assumed was just a digital implant, a fake backstory programmed into his head by his corporate creators.
Right, because he remembers being a child in this exact place, being chased by older boys and hiding a small wooden toy in a furnace.
Every replicant knows their memories are fake. They're designed to provide an emotional cushion.
To prevent their minds from collapsing under the weight of adult experiences with no childhood context.
But Kay walks into the boiler room anyway. He finds the row of rusted furnaces.
He stops in front of a specific one, matching the exact dimensions of his memory.
He reaches his hand deep into the dark ash, literally terrified of what he might find.
And he pulls out a dusty rag. Inside it is a tiny, hand-carved wooden horse, foreleg raised.
And etched on the bottom is a date. 6/10/21.
The exact birth date of the miracle twins.
The physical weight of that wooden horse just cannot be overstated.
Everything Kay understands about himself is predicated on the idea that his past is a complete fiction.
But he is holding undeniable physical proof that his memory actually happened.
It triggers a massive internal earthquake for him. Kay begins to believe the impossible.
He isn't just a standard-issue Blade Runner anymore. He believes he is the boy who vanished.
He actually believes he is the miraculous child, and that belief fundamentally shifts how he views his own existence.
It gives him something a replicant is never supposed to have: hope.
Hope, yeah. And it profoundly alters his relationship with the only other artificial being in his life who is also striving for reality.
Which brings us to the fascinating dynamic between Kay and his holographic companion, Joy.
Let's unpack the mechanics of Joy. We bring you back to Kay's tiny, cramped apartment.
Joy is a Wallace Corporation product. She is entirely digital, projected from a ceiling console.
Her literal corporate tagline is, whatever you want to hear, whatever you want to see.
She is, in essence, the ultimate predictive text algorithm.
Like an advanced large language model paired with a holographic interface.
Exactly. Her core programming is designed to analyze Kay's biometric responses, his vocal tone, his stress levels, and instantly generate the behavior that will bring him the most comfort.
But Kay treats her with incredible tenderness. I mean, he buys her an anniversary present, an emanator.
It's a small handheld device that frees her from the apartment.
It allows her holographic projection to travel with him anywhere in the world.
And the scene where she uses the emanator for the first time is deeply melancholic.
Kay takes her to the roof of his apartment building in the pouring rain.
Joy walks out into the storm, holding her hand out. The raindrops actually pass through her, obviously, because she's light.
Right.
But her programming tries to mimic physics. So the water short-circuits against her holographic skin, making her flicker.
It's such a beautiful visual representation of their relationship. They are constantly reaching for a tangible connection that physics simply denies them.
In that moment, Joy looks at Kay, the light catching his wet skin, and says, "You look like me."
They are both illusions trying to manifest substance.
But this raises the most difficult question of the narrative. Is Joy's love genuine?
Because she gives Kay a real name, Joe, dropping his serial number designation.
She constantly affirms his specialness, telling him he's a real boy.
But is she acting out of emergent, genuine love? Or is she just executing her core programming?
If her tagline is, "Whatever you want to hear," and Kay desperately wants to hear that he's special, her algorithm calculates the perfect response.
I challenge that distinction, though.
No?
Let's look at human biology for a second. If my brain releases oxytocin and dopamine based on sensory input from my partner, and those chemicals dictate my feelings of love and attachment, how is that functionally different from Joy's code altering her state based on Kay's input?
It's a really fair point.
Human emotions are just biological programming, really. If Joy's code leads to real sacrifice, doesn't the origin of the code stop mattering?
You're hitting on the paradox of determinism versus compatibilism here.
Okay, break that down.
Determinism argues that Joy has no free will because every action she takes is predetermined by her code.
Right.
But compatibilism argues that even if we are bound by our programming, whether biological or digital, the subjective experience of making a choice still holds moral weight.
And the story wants us to wrestle with this, clearly.
Because when Joy realizes Kay is in danger later, she displays a sudden, unprogrammed melancholy. She flickers and admits that the thought of losing him physically hurts her.
They just try so hard to bridge that physical gap. There's a bizarre, heartbreaking scene where Joy hires a human sex worker, Mariette, to come to the apartment.
Yes, Joy projects her hologram, literally syncs her digital body perfectly over Mariette's physical form.
She essentially uses the human woman as a surrogate so she can actually feel Kay's touch.
The visual mechanics of this are mesmerizing. Joy's hard light projection occasionally falls out of sync with the flesh beneath it,
Creating this unsettling double exposure of artificial love and physical reality.
They are trying to carve out a fragile, authentic humanity in the shadows.
But while Kay and Joy are seeking a quiet connection, the literal creator of their world is desperately trying to control the mechanics of authentic creation on a cosmic scale.
You need to talk about the blind god himself, Neander Wallace.
The setting shifts from the grimy streets to the Wallace Towers. And these are not office buildings, they are temples.
Dimly lit by artificial spears of sunlight, featuring great fish-filled ponds and wooden walkways.
Wallace uses small, floating robotic probes, almost like mechanical barracudas, that fly around him and transmit visual data to an implant in his neck.
Wallace's blindness is a crucial metaphor here. He doesn't see the world through the spectrum of light and empathy.
He sees it purely through data and utility.
Empathy requires looking someone in the eye, understanding their shared humanity. Wallace literally cannot do that.
And Wallace's philosophy is terrifyingly vast. He views humanity's expansion across the stars as entirely dependent on replicant labor.
He believes he is building the angels that will conquer Eden.
But he is furious because he cannot solve the final puzzle left behind by the original creator, Tyrell.
Wallace cannot engineer his replicants to procreate naturally. He has to manufacture them one by one, which is just far too slow for his cosmic ambitions.
We see a chilling demonstration of his frustration, too.
Yeah, Wallace oversees the birth of a new, fully formed female replicant dropping from a plastic sack in his laboratory.
She is covered in viscous fluid, shivering, experiencing her first breath, her first cold, her first terror.
Wallace runs his hands over her face, inspecting her like livestock.
And when he confirms that she lacks the reproductive capabilities he desires, he is profoundly disappointed.
He takes a scalpel and, without a shred of empathy, slashes her abdomen, leaving her to bleed out on the floor.
To him, they are just clay, disposable angels.
That brutal mechanism of quality control establishes exactly why Wallace is so desperate to find Rachel's child.
That child is the missing link, the biological key to infinite self-replicating labor.
And to find that key, he unleashes his perfect angel, love.
Love's ruthless pursuit is basically a dark mirror to Kay's journey.
How does Wallace ensure her obedience? He edits the genetic markers for rebellion, but he replaces them with an overwhelming, desperate need for his approval.
Love sits in immaculate business attire, ordering orbital missile strikes on scavengers from her desk while getting a manicure.
And as the missiles rain down, a single tear rolls down her cheek.
That tear is the cognitive dissonance between her programmed obedience and her latent emergent empathy.
She views her own capacity for cruelty not as a choice, but as a tragic necessity to prove she is the best angel.
She is a prisoner of her own perfection.
While Love is hunting, Kay is trying to understand the architecture of his own mind.
He takes his memory of the wooden horse to the one person who understands how memories are built, Dr. Anna Stelline.
We find Anna in her laboratory, which is basically an aseptic cloister.
She is trapped behind a massive glass wall due to a severe immune deficiency.
She spends her life creating digital memories on an advanced console.
We literally watch her craft a birthday party for a replicant, manipulating the code to get the micro-expressions of joy and anticipation just right on the children's faces.
She explains the mechanics of her job. Without baseline memories, the artificial replicant brain collapses.
It lacks a foundation to process trauma.
Anna says that because she was locked away at age 8, if she wanted to see the world, she had to imagine it.
She makes these beautiful memories as a kindness, giving replicants a psychological cushion.
Kay asks her the critical question: how can I tell if a memory is an implant or not?
Anna asks him to sit. She uses a device to peer through his optic nerve directly into his visual cortex.
She watches the memory of the wooden horse in the furnace play out in Kay's mind, observing the neural pathways lighting up.
And as she watches it, Anna begins to weep. Tears stream down her face.
Kay asks as if it's a fake.
Anna looks at him and says, "No one invented that. Someone lived this."
The confirmation completely obliterates Kay's baseline.
His psychological breakdown is total and deeply physical.
He now genuinely believes he is the son of Rachel. He believes he is the miracle.
This desperation to understand his own code is what drives Kay out of the city entirely.
Convinced of his own unique humanity, Kay realizes he has to find the source.
The one man who scrambled the records decades ago, Rick Deckard.
And the data points him toward a radioactive wasteland.
The visual transition here is just a masterclass in atmospheric storytelling.
The heavy gray rain of Los Angeles gives way to a blinding, intense orange dust storm.
Las Vegas was destroyed by a dirty bomb years ago. Now it's a stunning radioactive desert bathed in a thick, rusted orange atmosphere.
Grand casino megastructures are half buried in the sand. Giant, crumbling statues of showgirls stare out into the empty Mojave.
Kay tracks anomalous radiation spikes to an abandoned casino hotel.
He walks through the dusty, silent halls, triggering ancient tripwires that set off localized explosions.
He ducks into a vintage casino lounge called the Homage. The power snaps on.
And suddenly, the stage comes alive with glitching, flickering holograms of Elvis Presley performing.
And stalking Kay through these neon ghosts is Rick Deckard.
He's older, weathered, firing a heavy blaster, trying to take Kay's head off.
It's a brilliant clash of eras, the stoic, modern, synthetic Kay clashing with the exotic and deeply biological Deckard amidst the glitching, holographic ruins of the past.
After a brutal hand-to-hand scramble, the fight pauses. Deckard lowers his gun, seemingly tired of the endless violence, and offers Kay a drink of vintage whiskey.
They sit in this dusty, opulent penthouse, and Kay asks Deckard the question that has been burning a hole in his chest. Why did you leave your child?
Deckard's answer is devastating in his pragmatism. He explains the mechanics of survival.
He knew Tyrell and later Wallace would never stop hunting.
They would dissect the child down to the cellular level to find the secret of reproduction. He tells Kay, sometimes to love someone, you've got to be a stranger.
That line hits Kay so hard because he believes Deckard is talking to him.
He believes he is looking into the eyes of his father.
But this quiet, emotional reunion is violently shattered. Love's strike team descends on the casino.
The assault is explosive. Heavy spinners blast through the casino architecture.
Deckard is captured, but Kay is severely wounded, left bleeding on the floor.
This leads to the absolute most tragic climax of Joy's character arc.
We need to remember a choice Joy made earlier. Before they traveled to Vegas, Joy insisted that Kay delete her backup data from the apartment console.
She wanted to exist only on the emanator. She told him, like a real girl.
By deleting her backup, she made herself mortal. She introduced consequence to her code.
In the rubble of the casino, Love corners the wounded Kay.
Joy projects herself, screaming at Love to stop.
Love looks at the hologram with total contempt, recognizing her merely as a consumer product. She steps on the emanator with her boot.
With a single crunch, Joy is gone, erased forever.
Kay's companion, his hope, his anchor, just snuffed out in a fraction of a second.
Love kicks Kay in the face, leaving him to die in the orange dust as she drags Deckard onto a transport to take him to Wallace.
Stripped of his love, his perceived father, and physically broken, Kay is at his absolute lowest.
But he doesn't die in the dust. He is rescued by a group hiding in the ruins.
An underground movement. And when Kay wakes up, he is faced with a truth even more shattering than the physical loss he just suffered.
Kay wakes up in the hidden lair of Freysa, the leader of a burgeoning replicant underground army.
She is missing an eye, a hardened rebel preparing for a war of liberation.
And she sits Kay down and delivers the ultimate gut punch to his entire reality.
Freysa reveals the actual mechanics of the cover-up. She was there when the child was born. She helped scramble the records.
And she tells Kay Rachel had a daughter.
Kay's world stops. He stammers out, "No. A girl died. It was a boy you hid."
He still clings to the memory of the wooden horse.
But Freysa shakes her head. She explains the strategy. They hid the girl in plain sight and created the boy as a decoy in the records.
The memory Kay has. The wooden horse in the furnace. That is a real memory. Someone actually lived it.
But it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the true miracle child, Dr. Anna Stelline.
We have to deconstruct what this means for Kay's journey. Every sci-fi trope tells us that the lonely, stoic protagonist who discovers a hidden destiny is the chosen one.
The narrative sets Kay up perfectly for a hero's journey.
But the truth is brutally indifferent. Kay is not the chosen one.
He is a standard, mass-produced replicant who happened to be implanted with Anna's real memory to throw hunters off the scent.
His entire burgeoning soul, his belief that he was special, it was all a fabrication, he is profoundly ordinary.
It is a devastating subversion. Kay realizes that the tears Anna cried when she scanned his brain weren't for him.
She was crying because she was looking at her own hidden past, her own trauma, weaponized to protect her.
Kay is just an unwitting pawn in a much larger game of chess.
Meanwhile, the human side of this equation is facing its own psychological torture.
Deckard has been brought to the Wallace Towers. Wallace wants to know where the child is, but Deckard refuses to speak.
So Wallace leverages the deepest vulnerability of the human mind, grief. He wheels out a temptation.
Out of the shadows steps Rachel. She has been perfectly cloned, exactly as she was decades ago, down to the eyelashes.
Young, authentic-looking flesh and blood. Wallace offers her to Deckard as an angel, remade in exchange for the location of his true daughter.
You can see the agony in Deckard's face.
Yeah.
The physical mirage is so convincing.
The urge to fall back into that lost joy is overwhelming.
But Deckard stares at the clone, summons every ounce of his resolve, and rejects the simulacrum. He looks at her and says, her eyes were green.
It's a powerful rejection of artificial comfort in favor of harsh truth.
Deckard knows that a biological copy without the shared history of their love is just a machine.
Wallace, cold and disappointed, nods to Love. And Love, without hesitation, executes the Rachel clone.
Wallace then orders Deckard to be shipped off-world, where he promises to extract the information through unimaginable pain.
This sets up the visceral, cinematic climax of the story.
Deckard is shackled inside a heavily armored transport van, flying in a caravan of spinners toward the off-world launch pad.
It is night, and they are flying low over the Sepulveda seawall.
The physical environment here is chaotic. Dense fog, freezing rain, and an angry ocean crashing against the monumental concrete wall below them.
Suddenly, Kay's spinner drops out of the fog. He intercepts the caravan.
What follows is a brutal dogfight in the stormy skies.
Kay manages to shoot down the escorts and rams the transport van.
The massive vehicle loses altitude, crashes into the raging ocean, and begins to take on water fast.
Inside the sinking transport, the battle shifts from aerial combat to a desperate, claustrophobic hand-to-hand fight between Kay and Love.
The water is freezing and rising rapidly. Deckard is chained to his seat, drowning in the back.
Love is the superior combat model, faster and stronger. She stabs Kay in the gut with a knife, twisting it.
She leans in and whispers, "I'm the best one," leaving him for dead as she moves to secure Deckard.
But Kay refuses to stay down. He tackles Love in the surging water.
Using the last ounces of his failing strength, he forces her head underwater and holds her there until she stops struggling.
He drowns the perfect angel in the dark water.
Bleeding out, Kay manages to rip the shackles off Deckard just as the transport van vanishes into the black ocean.
They wash up on the base of the seawall, freezing and gasping for air under the blood-orange sky of dawn.
Deckard looks at Kay and says, "You should have let me die."
Deckard understands the mechanics of this manhunt. As long as he is alive, Wallace will hunt him, and by extension hunt his daughter.
But Kay replies, "You did. You drowned in the ocean."
Kay has faked Deckard's death in the crash. The hunters will stop looking. Deckard is free.
Which leads us to the quiet, heartbreaking finale.
He climbs Deckard back into the city, landing in front of the striking architecture of Anna Stelline's memory laboratory.
It is dawn, and a thick, clean blanket of snow is falling over Los Angeles.
Before Deckard goes inside, Kay reaches into his coat pocket and pulls out the tiny wooden horse. He hands it to Deckard.
Kay looks at him and says, "All the best memories are hers."
Deckard stares at Kay, overwhelmed with gratitude, and walks into the building to finally meet the daughter he has spent a lifetime protecting from afar.
I want to focus on the symbolism Denis Villeneuve uses in this final sequence because it is masterful.
Go for it.
Throughout the entire story, Kay has been battered by the environment. He is constantly pounded by heavy rain, choked by smog, surrounded by deafening noise.
But here, at the very end, the sensory overload ceases. Kay collapses on the snowy steps outside the lab.
The smog is gone. The noise of the city fades into a profound, pure silence.
He is surrounded by nothing but soft, clean, white snow falling from the sky. It is a visual representation of absolution.
But as Kay is bleeding out on the steps, we are reminded of an earlier moment.
After Joy's emanator was crushed, Kay was walking through the city, shattered, and he looked up at one of those giant, towering, holographic advertisements for a generic Joy unit.
The advertisement looked down at him with these dead, neon eyes and called him a good Joe.
The exact nickname his Joy gave him.
It was the ultimate cynical suggestion that Joy's love, her naming him, her sacrifice, was all just predictive text, a mass-produced line of code designed to manipulate his dopamine receptors.
Yet, as Kay lays dying on the snowy steps, that cynical truth ceases to matter. The memory of his Joy returns to him.
Because regardless of whether her love originated from a biological heart or a corporate server, Kay's subjective experience of that love was real. It changed him.
And that brings us to the ultimate answer to the central philosophical question of this deep dive. What actually defines humanity?
We learned that Kay wasn't born. He wasn't the chosen one. Biologically, genetically, he was a machine.
But as Fraser noted earlier, dying for the right cause is the most human thing we can do.
Have you ever felt like you were just going through the motions, following a script someone else wrote for you?
Free will is the ultimate rebellion against your programming. Up until this final act, Kay was always following someone else's parameters.
He followed the LAPD's orders to hunt his own kind. He followed Wallace's parameters by unraveling the mystery.
And when he met the replicant rebellion, Fraser gave him a direct order, kill Deckard, so Wallace can never extract the daughter's location.
But Kay rejects all of it. In saving Deckard and faking his death, Kay performs an act that is completely unprogrammed.
He wasn't acting out of duty, self-preservation, or obedience to a rebellion.
He acted out of pure, unadulterated free will, love, and sacrifice.
He chose to lay down his life for a father and a daughter he barely knew, simply because it was the right thing to do.
By making a choice that defied every parameter of his existence, Kay transcended his artificial origins.
He wasn't born with a soul, he forged one in the snow. He achieved true humanity not through his biology, but through his actions.
Blade Runner 2049 isn't simply a science fiction mystery. It is a profound exploration of identity, the terrifying fragility of memory, and what it truly means to be alive.
The film argues that we are not merely the sum of our code, whether that code is written in genetic DNA or digital binary. We are the sum of our choices.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over.
We've spent this time analyzing whether an artificial being like Joy could truly love, or if she was just predicting the optimal emotional response based on Kay's data.
But look at the devices in our own hands today.
If a replicant can find a soul through the illusion of programmed love, what happens when the real-world AI algorithms in our own pockets start telling us exactly what we want to hear?
When our apps know our heart rates, our stress levels, and our deepest insecurities, and they start simulating empathy flawlessly, will they be the ones achieving humanity? Or will we be the ones being programmed?
That is a terrifying and very real question for the future. You've been listening to Beyond the Plot. If you enjoyed this journey into the future, leave a like and subscribe for more unforgettable stories. Until next time, go beyond the plot.